And hello, everybody. Be you watching live on New Year's Day, or if you're listening to the audio-only version via Apple Podcasts or Google Podcasts or Spotify or YouTube, whatever you do, thank you very much for joining us. I am Nick Draper. I am joined, as always, by the face of the BBC Sport website, Mr. Stuart Deakins, and it is episode 237 of the show, and the very, very first one in the year 2021. And I've just realised that I am watching this as well on YouTube to see what you are all seeing, those of you out there in listener/viewer land. And I realised I had my sound on, so I just turned it off very, very quickly because that could have been awkward. And Stu, I've noticed on the live stream, just on the starting soon screen before we came live, this big Y has started appearing.
I don't know why. I don't know why.
It's happened on Apple Podcasts and Spotify and everything like that. Instead of the lovely, beautiful 9 years logo, we've just got this Y.
Okay, I'd have to admit, I thought you changed it for the year. I thought it was a new design. I just think, it's not like Nick's design, but maybe he's got something a bit groovy. So that's me. I thought you changed it.
No, I'm afraid not. We've just got a sky blue and a white Y. So if you're seeing that on your screen, I don't know what's happened, but there we go. It's been popping up on my, because I subscribe to our podcast obviously to make sure that it all goes through properly when we upload it on a Friday, and it pops up on my screen currently with that Y. Yeah, so I'll have to have a play with the logo and see what's going on there. Something's happened with the file maybe, but anyway, doesn't matter. Thank you everybody for listening. Happy New Year, Stu. We're going to talk today about what we want to happen in 2021 and what we expect to happen, our predictions for the remainder of the season, and then hopefully whatever happens from the summer onwards. There's a lot in that. It's not your usual year. It's not your usual start of the calendar year show where we talk about our hopes and aspirations and fears and concerns and all that jazz. We might not even have a season that finishes. We just don't know what's going on in the world. It's hard times. So when I say Happy New Year, I mean, is it really? What was your New Year's Eve like? Did you stay up until midnight? Did you watch the fireworks or the drone show or that dystopian hellscape that we saw above London?
No, it was when I was actually working on New Year's Eve, so I did finish at 1 and didn't bother finishing until about 4, just because I just didn't, nothing else to do. It's really weird, isn't it? Because even watching football or even watching programs, nothing that's done now can be done properly. So it just feels like a Groundhog Day. So no, we made a curry last night, which was good. Yeah, I just felt a bit bored, tired. So I had a really early night. I went to bed about 9:30, I think. Woke up fresh as a daisy. New Year's Day, watched the fireworks and the drones. That they kept quiet, didn't they? Which looked quite impressive, but nothing feels normal, as we should say.
No, nothing at all. It's. I will say that New Year's Day, traditionally a very, very quiet day, but more so when I was out and about earlier, just absolutely dead. Just essentially no cars on the road, no traffic, very few people out. Could hear a pin drop, which is good, which is great, but also we know that things are not great. I mean, that is unfortunately a symptom of a world at the moment which is not in a good place, or a country at least, it's not in a good place. And we're not going to get into the pros and cons of Brexit or anything like that.
That's a different podcast altogether, isn't it?
That's a whole different scenario. That's not what I'm referencing at this moment in time. I'm talking about COVID, of course. And Stu, we have a game tomorrow, I guess by some of you will be listening to this in reverse. 2nd of January, we are hosting Lincoln City at Plough Lane. Their manager and goalkeeping coach or physio have both had positive COVID tests, so they will not be in attendance. However, the game will still be going ahead, but the programme and the festive fixture list, we'll review the games that we've played since we last had a podcast. We've only had 2, Crewe and Oxford. But the fixture list in League One has been essentially cut in half over the festive period, and it looks like it's going to be a similar story this weekend. Is it that bad? And by that, I mean precautions have to be taken for games to be postponed, but is it so many positive tests that the Premier League are asking this question as well about a horrible term I hate, circuit breaker. They're all asking the question whether the league should be postponed. Are the numbers really adding up? I'm not sure if the percentage terms of how many players and staff are actually testing positive. I don't know what that percentage is in terms of number of footballers in the division, for example, in League One. I'm not sure if any of them is actually unwell or anything like that. So is there a chance or conversations about taking a locking down? Are they perhaps an overreaction?
It's difficult, isn't it? I think the Premier League, obviously, the Premier League are caught between health and wealth, as we've seen many situations across last year in terms of they know that if they curtail the season or do anything to disrupt it, that the financial implications are massive. So that's where they're looking, and they're looking at finances, whereas I would rather they look at health. However, the Premier League have got themselves into a bit of a corner now, haven't they? Because they're postponing games with hours to go. Tottenham Fulham game as an example, and no one's really sure of the rules now, are they? So it used to be, it was supposed to be if you only had, I think if you had 14 players that were fit, then you could play the fixture. But of course, the money in the Premier League, they don't want to play with a weakened squad, So they're now requesting the game to be postponed, and it's going out of that sort of guidance from the Premier League. So now the Premier League are caught now because if they've let Man City not play, they've let Fulham not play, then the other if another team goes to them, tomorrow, for example, say Burnley go to them, they've set a precedence now. So they've got a very difficult situation of reining it in. And equally, with the English Football League, I don't know what their guidance is, because it just seems to be all over the place. We saw that Mark Afton, unfortunately, is self-isolating along with some other management team. Well, does it mean then that if it's just a management team, it's fine? Because we've seen other situations where games have been postponed when it's been a mixture of players and management team, isn't it? Nobody knows where they are with it, and it also seems to be at the discretion of the team whether they actually report it, which again can get into the argument of are they going to play games they want to play and not play games that they maybe might not pick up points from.
It's one big whole mess, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
And it comes in, as you say there, and you've evidence there. Nobody really knows. No one knows what to do for the best. No one's got any answers. We're all just trying to, I guess, muddle on. Is what it is. I personally, my issue with football, carrying on, is why is football at our levels where we don't have the testing or anything like, even though testing as well, so there's so many things that go into this. We're seeing record numbers of cases, as they say, in all the statistics. A case is not necessarily a case. A case is a positive COVID test. We've had positive in my job, working in a school. We've had a few positive tests now.
Yeah.
I couldn't tell you how many, maybe roughly just into double figures now, maybe, but it would only be just if it was. None of them are unwell. They've just received a positive test. So they're not a case in inverted commas.
Yeah.
And that's the issue, isn't it? It's a case of everything's being locked down because they're saying cases are going up and up and up and up. But football, especially at League One and League Two level, where there is no set regimented testing procedures as there are in the Championship and the Premier League, is carrying on where other industries aren't allowed to carry on. And I can't figure out that, or I can't reconcile that as being fair.
No, and that's the issue, isn't it? To be fair to the Premier League, they've been regular testing, haven't they, week on week, because they can afford to.
Yeah, that's a different story. Yeah, that would be for them a different conversation.
Yeah, so they haven't changed, but English Football League have, of course, because I think the cost is about £3,000 a week. Well, of course, English Football League, of course, goes across the Championship, League One, League Two. Championship can probably afford it, but if we added in £3,000 a week for testing, that's equivalent to possibly one star player or two average players, whatever way you want to look at it that way. I think the difficulty is with the Premier League is that if you look at the Newcastle situation, it does look like, COVID impacts everybody differently, in terms of people with underlying issues and people that we expect sports people to be fit and, not, COVID can't attack them as much as maybe someone that's not as fit and that sort of side of it. But Newcastle have had two cases where players have actually been really impacted and got a non-COVID side of it. So it is a bit of a lottery, isn't it? I think it's right to have the health side of it, But as you alluded to there, is it right? I don't know if it's right, if I'm being honest with you, that we've locked up all hospitality, anything of earning a living, and we've gone, well, football can continue as normal because it's great for people's mental health. I don't know if it is good for people's mental health. It hasn't done me any good recently, I'll be truthful.
It's not been great for me. I stopped watching it a long, long time ago because it wasn't doing anything for me. It was making me feel worse. I think I look at things when people say about people's mental health, and I've had this conversation with you before, Stu. Conversation on the radio today about cinemas and their futures and what's going to happen with them. But they're not allowed to open. Theatres aren't allowed to open. They're great for people's mental health, but they're not allowed. Football. Well, yeah, the price they ran off on that, but yeah, football has this special dispensation, and I don't know. You've polled our fans on Discord earlier today. You put the results on the screen of what they think should happen for the finish of League One. As I've said there, we're just carrying on we're seeming to muddle on, as I say, rightly or wrongly. You've asked people what they would like to happen or what they think would happen.
Yeah, so just, what do you think would happen? I put a few options in. I put a silly option about, let's just promote Wimbledon, Accrington and Peterborough. That actually got quite a lot of votes.
I like the fact that the initials of those teams on the screen, for people that are listening to the audio-only version, Stu's put the choices and the percentages on the screen. And as he says there, just promote Wimbledon, Accrington and Peterborough now and be done with it. WAP. Is that a Cardi B reference? I don't know. But no one really wants to think about that right now. 17% people said that.
Yeah, that, to be fair, I put this poll out on, obviously, a Nine Podcast Facebook, the Wimbledon groups, and also the League One group, which has been, it's not a bad Facebook group to be in. It can be a little bit like, big clubs trying to be big Charlies and stuff like that, but it has now sort of like, I think there's a bit of realism now, and they've been discussing quite a lot about what should happen, because I heard something the other day say about it. It's not so much about money and stuff. It's about sporting integrity as well. If you look at the league, it's all over the place. Accrington have lost their game against Pompey tomorrow down to a frozen pitch, which they've had before anyway. But that's on top of COVID. So we've now got a situation with the weather and COVID causing a problem. Accrington, I think, have got 4 games in hand that could go top if they won all 4 of those, which you wouldn't say is against that because their form has been very good this season. But Andy Holt, their chairman, said that they have to play a game every 4 days now to the end of the season, when they've just got 1 more now. So I just don't know where it is. We need to. I think the EFL needs to make a decision, or at least come out and communicate and say what they're looking at. So that's why I put the poll up. Just my personal opinion was I don't think we should continue the season, and I think the longer we get down this road, we're now at just below midway. So it's midway, 23 games, isn't it? So we're probably about a couple of weeks away from that now. But if we get into 30 games and stuff like that, then all of a sudden it becomes a big problem. And look at the mess we had last year.
You've said extend the season for at least a month and review fixtures, stop multiple games a week. That's the option that you're discussing there. 25%, roughly, about a quarter of people said that was their preferred option. If it's going to happen, it's going to have to happen soon. So fixtures towards the end can be pushed and moved around, and the various implications that will have should crowds be allowed back in, and we'll get onto that in a minute. Carry on as planned, even if it means 2 to 3 games a week. 20% of the votes are 1 in 5. Cancel the season and have no promotional relegation. 14%. And we had 101 votes in a 1984 style 101. So that roughly equates to how many people went for that. Yeah. And a circuit break and extend the season, which I don't think that's going to happen. I think perhaps they can start to push games back. I don't know. The thing is, all these implications now, Stu, and it's too much for my head to process at the moment, but don't we have European Championships and all that business going on that's going to interfere with? They've been moved and relocated and all sorts. It is just one big mess. I don't know how else to put it. I do wonder if perhaps, like we're saying, just grin and bear it and put up with it as best we can and see what happens. And whatever happens come the end of the season, whoever goes up and down, whether it's deserved or not, we still have question marks over Wickham. We know there was a big hoo-ha over the insinuation that Leeds benefited massively from what happened at the end of last season.
Yeah.
And we just grin and bear it and say, look, it's kind of like kids not doing exams last year. You just have a year where you just have to sort of asterisk it and say, well, this is what we had to do because of circumstances beyond our control.
Definitely. Just very quickly, just before we crack, Gary Fletcher, thanks for joining us. I had sent your questions, so we'll come on to them. We're just going to quickly go through these polls, and then we'll come on to that in the second half. And Brian Lacario, Happy New Year, boys. Happy New Year to you as well.
Say Brian's surname again.
I don't know. I don't know. Brian. Brian, let me know how you
I think it's.
that.
I'm going to go for Lo Cicero.
Lo Cicero. Yeah, that sounds.
But Brian, please let us know. And,
I've never.
We'll get that correct
with names. But yeah, do you know what? Yeah, Grin and Bear, I get that. I do get that. And I know obviously with schools and that, it's very much something close to your heart on that, which has been really bad this year or last year. You know what I mean? The thing is, the 2 week circuit break could end up being 4 weeks, 5 weeks, 6 weeks. We know there's a lot more testing. We know there's a lot more cases. So it's very difficult. COVID has really challenged everybody, isn't it, in terms of the economy and stuff like that. But if we just isolate it to football, it's decimating football, isn't it? In terms of if we extend the season, that's more money. So normally the players have like a month's grace. So normally the season finishes in May, their contracts end in July, the beginning of July, which is technically like notice period. If you're leaving your job. So if we extend that, if the season extends to say 2, 3, or 4 weeks, can clubs afford to go further on, especially if they're having to pay for testing, which made me laugh as well, by the way, you're correct, Nick. Yeah, you pronounced it correctly, well done.
Thanks, Brian.
Brian's surname. What I mean by that is the EFL said there should be weekly testing, but then if you read below that, it said that should be picked up by the PFA. It didn't say it is being picked up by the PFA. So the EFL just seemed to go, well, you do this, but have no understanding of the consequence. And let's look at how long it took them to actually get this package to help out football league clubs, which ended up to be 30 million quid, which in the terms of football is just ridiculous. So I just don't see how you continue. Clubs can't afford to do that. And if we get into the business end of the season, look at Darren McAntony. This is why I used Peterborough in one of my examples. Look at the fuss that he caused on that last year. And Andy Holt, to be fair, did say an interesting thing. Clubs are now going to be looking potentially whether it's worth playing or not playing, because if they've got great points per game, they might not want to play. If they've got rubbish points per game, they might want to play. Do you know what I mean? In terms of influencing their decision if they did have a COVID outbreak or even potentially a dodgy pitch.
A dodgy what, sorry?
A dodgy pitch. Dodgy.
Right. Yes. I'm just going to look at, because you've mentioned points per game there, I wanted to just double check the League One table, because points per game is all very well and good, but...
Yeah, I know you were saying.
Well, we've just hit, I suppose we are, well, we're not halfway. What am I talking about? No. The team in the division that's played the most games, Burton Albion and they who must not be named, are not halfway. They have played more than anyone else. So that's the problem. How on earth do you and Accrington have only played a third of their games. So how on earth do you justify? We don't have any solutions, by the way, listeners. I wish I did. I wish I could say this is what we should be doing, and I could be forthright with it. But I don't. As I say to you, Stu, I think it really is like I've been saying pretty much all this podcast. We just got to just get on with it. We're just going to have to deal with it.
Yeah,
and make do amend.
There was one suggestion, actually. Someone posted it on, tweeted to Andy Holmes. He's been discussing it today. Obviously, we're recording on New Year's Day. Actually, we're live on New Year's Day. Oh, dear, that's going to be confusing. But there was someone saying about what's the potential maybe of looking at the fixtures and looking at local games and bringing the local games in. Because as far as say, Lincoln are travelling to Wimbledon tomorrow. They're going to cross all about. They're going to go all the way through Tier 4, most of the country anyway. You had Pompey going from the south coast up to Accrington. So are these teams travelling today?
It's a great point, because the original lockdown when football was cancelled was because the whole country was in lockdown. And I know that we're not in national lockdown, but we are. We are essentially, we are. There are so many areas in what has now been christened Tier 4. You're right. I would have hoped, but I don't hold my breath on this one. The instances of a team like Lincoln travelling down to South London, that these are part of processes that people have thought of, and their method of travel has been approved. They are going to either jump on a coach and travel down today, and they're in a bubble. They get to a hotel. They're not mixing. Do you know what I'm saying? Stops along the way, perhaps they're not going to do that. Maybe, I don't know. They're just saying, look, we're just going to go straight through. The driver will have a break, but you've got to stay either on the coach or you can just walk around. You can't go into, I don't know if service stations are open. I just don't know because I've not been outside of.
No, I don't know either.
Within a mile, basically, of where I am now for so long. So all these sorts of things all factor into it. I'm hoping there are processes in place, but I doubt there are.
No, and it's just going to get worse, Nick. This is the thing, we look at this, look at the numbers, and I agree with what you're saying. In terms of testing, testing is massive compared to what it was in April, but the numbers are not good, no matter what way you look at it. And we've got a more transmissible virus, which now means the government are taking it a little bit more seriously.
So we are told.
Well, and this is where it's so dangerous, isn't it? It's so dangerous because if you look at Twitter, and this is like, I'm not going to talk about Brexit because, of course, that's been introduced today. But there's no middle ground. It's either there is a conspiracy or it's not a conspiracy. It's either the worst thing in the world or it's actually overrated. Do you know what I mean? I know it's a bad expression to use for an overrated virus, but it is so much like that, isn't it? And I think
everything is like that.
I'm doubting things because I'm getting very fatigued due to lockdown. So my thinking now is going, it can't be that bad because it's locking us down, and I'd rather just go out. But you're trusting the scientists who, again, are split.
Yeah, this is the thing. This is what I say. Nobody knows. This is the problem.
It's, and I don't know about you, but it really frustrated me seeing Australia and New Zealand celebrating it together. Well, they weren't together. They don't like each other, but you know what I mean.
Because it's not like
it's so frustrating.
It's like dogs and cats.
Parts of the country, and also the place
different parts of the world.
Oh yeah. Sorry, big world. But and also the place that apparently started it are fine. But
do you believe a word that comes out of? Sorry, listeners, we will get back to football. Do you believe a word that comes out of that country's mouth?
Nah, it's the same sort of level as Carl Robinson. You just don't believe anything, do you?
No, that probably wasn't the best football reference to go back with that name. But funny you should mention him. Should we talk football? We will talk football because that's a good link to our Boxing Day defeat at the Kassam Stadium. And there's a player issue that we will discuss regarding that defeat. But another player issue we'll get to beforehand. Gary Fletcher has asked, watching live on our Patreon, patreon.com/9wireless podcast. And thank you guys for subscribing to us and joining up. Gary has said, Steve Seddon, are we bothered? Discuss. Steve Seddon has been recalled from his loan by Birmingham City. And it's one of those, isn't it? We've had this so many times where a player has been coming in on loan, been a great success. They then come back and it's never quite hit the heights. And despite a very promising start, possibly at one of the last games I watched was Swindon away.
Yeah,
he scored the winning goal and we were like, right, game on here. And I remember speaking to you after the Swindon game thinking, now we've got Seddon in and we've recruited well and we still had absences at that point. And we were thinking, blimey, this is looking good. This is shaping up really, really nicely. And now we've gone on a bad run and we've fallen away. And we'll come on to that when we talk about Oxford. In terms of Seddon, are we going to miss him?
No. And I know you're not going to be watching your football, Nick, because that's what I just mentioned. It was Fleetwood that he scored the winner against.
No, who scored the winner? Oh, Piggott scored the winner at Swindon, didn't he?
Yeah, from the Gary O'Neill, yes, Bolton, or
Luke O'Neill.
Yeah, Luke O'Neill from that. Great.
Swindon. Do you know what my issue here is, Stu? Is that these are teams that play in red. And I'm not paying attention. And for some reason, I think we played in yellow away at both of them for no logical reason whatsoever. It all muddles into one of my mind. But yes, it was.
Yeah.
Was it like third or fourth game of the season?
Yeah,
and he scored the winning goal.
And to be fair, it's one of the goals of the season.
It was a great goal, yeah.
We scored some. To be fair, we scored some pretty decent goals this year. Well, early part of the season. We can go on to that in a little while.
Also, their nicknames are both types of animal: cod and fish. Cod and fish. Cod and robins. So yeah.
Yeah. No, when we got Seddon, I was a little bit like, do we need? I've been discussing all season about. I think we should be just as economical with our money as anyone else should be in this situation. So I just thought, do we need another left wing back? And yeah, he's done well to start off with, but he has dropped off. But then he's not alone in that. I think the whole squad has dropped off in their level of performances. So naturally, sometimes you're going to look at your loanees or ones you expect more from and go there. But no, it's not a big loss. From what I saw, Birmingham are in dire straits. They lost 4-0 at home to Derby over Christmas, which made me, and they said they were desperate for players, which made me look at Cole Truman just to make sure that they look okay with that in terms of the goalkeepers are very much set, so I don't think they will be recalling Truman. But no, I'm not worried, and I don't think, we've got a poll that we're going to show a little later. I don't think we should be replacing him. I don't see a point. We've got we've got 2 left backs, and they're just as good.
Yeah, Nesta against Walker, Paul or Sue. We didn't feel like we needed to replace either of them. Another topic of conversation on our Patreon feed, on our live feed, Gary Fletcher and Matt Harwood both asking about formations. We talk about left backs. Instead of Nesta and Paul Osu, we've seen in their time with us 3 left wing backs, not left backs. Osu, Nesta, have we not always thought that we are more comfortable with them as an attacking threat as opposed to a defensive threat, as opposed to in a more defensive role, where if we were to change formation, which we think we will, because we're looking at going perhaps to a back 4, because we had, in terms of performance-wise, success with it at Oxford when we made the switch to a back 4. But would you be happy with either of those 2 left back as opposed to left wing back?
Yeah, well, I think they've both done all right when they've come into games. We've said them across, we've said it's right back or right wing back in some situations, and then played Osu or Nesta against Walker. I'm happy to play either of those. The reason I'm happy is because they're our players. So we've got to be making sure now that the players we've got, we're using. In terms of formation wise, I'm a bit. Initially, I was like, let's change formation because that could have been a problem. And when we changed to a 4-3-3 against Oxford, that we caused Oxford all sorts of problems. And there's many reasons why that could have been the case. But I think 3-5-2 has worked for us. The problem we've had, and I'm not going to try and make excuses, I don't think it's an excuse, but we haven't had any time in the training field, equally like a lot of clubs. But we've introduced new players, new formation, and the 3-5-2 is working to a certain extent. But we've just lost our pattern of play and our shape. Our shape is the biggest problem because we've changed personnel so much because of the amount of games. When you have a settled team, settled formation, I think it works. It's the personnel that's changed. That's my worry. But I think the 3-5-2 does work. If we change a 4-3-3 now or 4-4-2, does that work? I don't know. It's all like, it's panic stations at the moment because we need to stop this rot. We're losing games left, right, and centre. I'm not too sure the formation is the thing I'll change at the moment.
We are 4 defeats from the last 5, winless without a win in the last 5. We have fallen to within 2 points of the relegation zone. One of the reasons you said there, Stu, many reasons why we might have been performing better, having gone 2-0 down against Oxford, might have been a case of they eased off a little bit as well. They felt the game perhaps was won, which is understandable given that the last time we went there in the league, we got turned over 5-0. I know we got the League Cup draw that we lost on penalties, but not sure how much attention was paid to that. Probably the first game of the season. So there's reasons for that. We go to Lincoln. No, we don't. We host Lincoln on Saturday, on New Year, on the 2nd of January. They are top. They've won their last couple. Would it make sense to make a formation switch now? We've had a bit of time on the training ground because the Ipswich game was postponed.
Yeah.
So they have been in training. But do you think then we'll, because of the nature of who we're playing, we'll stick with the 3-5-2 for this game and then maybe perhaps change it up afterwards when we're hosting Wigan, and that is a big game at the time.
Yeah, do you know what? I think this Lincoln game is a tough game. Right? If you look at their stats, it's scary. They've only conceded 4 goals away all season, which is just ridiculous. They've won a lot of games to 0 against teams around us. It worried. This game is probably a game. I hate saying it, but the free hits you always sort of say in a way nothing should be a free hit, but this one is basically. So why not? They're going to set up for us to play 3-5-2 because that's what we have. They haven't also got having their manager not there is actually a real. Unfortunately, it's an advantage for us because I know he's going to be watching from home and making changes. But hey, look, if I was Wimbledon, I would try and somehow knock the signal out. So he can't communicate. That's just me being the old cynical, as you know. But it could
Stu,
be
are you expecting our football club, of all the football clubs, to have the technical expertise to be able to block a signal to a particular individual?
Well, it's a state-of-the-art ground. We're told it's a state-of-the-art ground, so surely it must have some sort of mobile phone blocker. So
Yeah, good.
all those flats surely should wipe out the signal.
Yeah, good luck with that.
But no, I suppose, if we're going to make a formation change, why not? Why not tomorrow? Because it's a free hit. Their form, if you look at their form, it's scary. It really is. Like, it's a tough game. So, yeah, why not? But then you're right. We need to go to Wigan. Wigan is a big game. And Wigan are topsy-turvy. If you beat Sunderland away and then lose the next week, it's two big games for very different reasons.
The Oxford game I mentioned about a player issue. That player, Joe Pickett, missed out because of a foot injury. Interesting way that was communicated on Twitter by the official Twitter feed, which said, "We are told it's not serious," which is almost the sort of reporting you'd expect from an unofficial source, not the official source. And I might just be reading too much into semantics here, but I thought, foot injury, I'm a bit worried coming into January about players being absent. And I'm speculating, of course I am, but I'm only saying what has been said to me by several people who have gone, that's a concern, because Joe Pickett is in, or has been in, phenomenal form this season. And of course he's going to be attracting interest from bigger clubs.
Yeah, we're all the same. And I think the club realise that. I think that's why the club very rarely do they put out a sort of like an explanation as to why a player isn't in the squad. And there's many reasons for that. But I think they also realise that, time of year, maybe they have to clarify it. It was good that they clarified it, because...
Oh, yeah, no, absolutely.
Whether it leaves it till I wouldn't say they're lying, because that's not what I would come out and say. But you also think, is that just convenient? Because we're all cynical, aren't we? All football fans are cynical. Our top goal scorer not playing. We know how important our top goal scorer is. We take his goals out this season, we probably are doing. We're looking well at the table, doing a 10-point gap like we did the previous season. So I get why the club did it. Let's hope it is just a foot injury. I was trying to look at the pictures that the club put up from the training and see if I could see John Pickett. I can see Ollie Palmer. I couldn't miss Ollie Palmer, to be fair. I couldn't see Joe, if I'm being honest with you, but I might be wrong. I might say we're wrong. But yeah, big loss. Big loss. And you have to wonder, when you go to the Oxford game, you have to wonder what he surely would have taken one of those chances.
Yeah, absolutely. We missed so many chances and we hit the woodwork, and their goalkeeper got man of the match from their match sponsors, which I couldn't figure out, but okay. And yeah, it was a big loss on the day, and hopefully, as you say, Stu, he'll be back in the squad. We hope maybe if he's back in the squad tomorrow, no worries, all good. We can crack on, but that's another issue. I don't think it's going to go away until the window shuts. I think we're going to have lots of rumours, and there are rumours about Shane McLaughlin as well going around at the moment. So,
but it's hardly a surprise, Nick, is it? And it got me thinking. I was actually looking at who's out of contract. We know Joe Pickett is. We know Sam McLaughlin is now, because they said that. When I've been at Player Lane, it's just full of not full of scouts, but there's scouts around. And you would be if
definitely not full of. Definitely not full.
If you've gone to a game scouting your position, if you didn't know Shane McLaughlin, then you're not a decent scout. He is standing out massively, carrying the team, excellent for that position. So it's not a surprise he's wanted, but it's going to be that thing again, isn't it? I don't want to lose Shane McLaughlin on free transfer, for nothing. But then if you flipped it around, halfway through last season, you'd have said, let him go. He's had an amazing change of form and adapted to that right wing back position. But yeah, if we lost him, that could be a problem, because you've got Charlie Zonda, who's done nothing wrong, but hasn't actually done much because Shane's kept him out for most of the season.
Shane McLaughlin could be the love child of Shane Ritchie and Craig McLaughlin. It just came to me because I was picturing the wrong person. I was thinking McLaughlin. Yeah, neighbours. Yeah. Just look at it. I think it's possible. I mean, it's not possible for all sorts of biological reasons. But who? Which one? Shane McLaughlin.
Yeah, you've seen his picture.
Jack
McDonald just don't like smiling.
Oh, see, this is a change in Shane McLaughlin. I think he's very focused at the moment, because although he was great when he first joined us, there was a little bit more of I think he's matured, shall we say. in the couple of years since he first joined. And that's demonstrated perhaps or exhibited in his manner. You had another poll that you put forward that we've not discussed.
I did. Yeah, so this is one that's close to my heart. We've discussed this a bit, haven't we? So, what January transfer window activity? What should we do? I'll be straight. My view is, I think we need to make sure we don't spend stupid money or even spend any money. And we need to look at the loans we've got. Are they the right loans? Probably are. We now lost. Steve Sennon's gone back, but I'm really worried. I don't think as we started the podcast, we talked about the economy and all this sort of stuff. We can't ignore the fact that we are not going to have any fans in the ground this season. I don't see it. Don't see it at all. And how have we got our finances right? And are we spending money now that we actually can't be confident that it's going to be value for money or not put us into trouble next season?
The poll you put forward, January transfer window activity, you have said the 4 options: operate a 1-out, 1-in strategy, which most people took, 40%. Invest as much money as we can to secure safety was roughly 28%. This is from 60 votes, roughly.
Yeah.
No investment at all in the team due to the current economic situation, accepting this may result in relegation. 16% take that. That's your option, Stu, and I would agree with that one. And release players on loan and utilise our squad players and academy prospects. Yeah, I mean, 14%, 15%. Okay. The thing about relegation and the current economic situation is that the amount of money that we are losing, I don't think... as you say, Stu, we don't know exactly when it's going to end, and we don't know what the knock-on effect of next season is going to be. We've had this conversation before. I've got a debenture. Say I've got a debenture, right? Next season, I don't have to buy a season ticket. I can just turn up when I choose because my seat is safe. I don't have to pay any more money for the debenture. Yep. It's there. My seat is there if I choose to take it. So on a game-by-game basis, I could say, do you know what, not coming this week. You're not getting my money. Now, you might say that's great. Somebody else will take it. Not necessarily. 2020 was a horrible year. And what people, I'm really sorry to be so depressing so early into 2021.
Come on, this year first day of the year.
It's going to be worse. It's going to be worse because we're going to see the fallout of the lockdowns. The unemployment rate is going to shoot up. People are going to be tightening their purses and belts. I know there are other people that are going to be perfectly fine because they've been sitting on money. They've not gone away this year. Do you know what, though? I forgot that we were relaxed over the summer and people were going away. People were having holidays. They might have stayed in the country, but they were spending money. So we still don't know what the long-term effects are going to be. Next season, as great as having Plough Lane is, and we will want it full, and I'm sure it will be full for the first game. But whereas if we'd have gone into Plough Lane this year without all this COVID nonsense, I'd have said we'll be sold out for the first, second, third, fourth, fifth, sixth, seventh, eighth game. Now I can only guarantee the very first one because I'm not sure the money is there.
Yeah, I agree.
That's a worry. That's going to affect budgets going forward. So this is what I mean. I agree with you in January. Essentially, keep what you've got and start stockpiling because it's a really bleak picture economically.
Yeah, it is, and it's really weird. I've had a couple of stories from friends over Christmas where both parents have lost their job, just lost their job.
Yep.
I've got a couple that live in where that's what I do. Both hairdressers haven't seen them for about 2 or 3 months. I think they've actually had to leave because again they can't earn any money. So
I don't want to make light of that situation, Stu, but for those of you that are watching live, you can see that I myself have not seen a hairdresser for several months either, and it's going to be a while. This could be quite a state by the end of it. Anyway, carry on.
But you're right. If you're in hospitality, you've got there's so many things. And my thinking is, are we looking? I know the last Dogs Trust board meeting Dogs Trust meeting they had, Tom, our financial person, said that they've done a number of budgets and looking potentially at what could happen. But have we looked? And I'm not going to, for one side, I'm not going to sound like some sort of financial expert, but have we looked at the fact that potentially next season, even if we might be getting the same people in, but can they afford to pay the same money? Are we going to have to reduce? Because I saw that someone saying let's reduce what we put in. I was like, well, we're already charging £20 mostly. If you go anywhere in the country, League One, you're looking
Yeah.
around about sort of 18 to 20 quid, aren't you? And higher if you want to. So can we even fill the seats that we've got for that price? Can we get the hospitality? Can we get the sponsorship at the same price? There's loads of things. Companies don't get rich by giving money away, so they might be negotiating going, look, I can't afford this, but knowing they're in a strong position. So we have to be very careful. And I'm not comfortable us spending money just for the sake of it. One of my good friends said to me yesterday, yeah, we need a right back and we need a centre half. And I'm like, we've got 5 centre halves. Haven't got loads of fullbacks. Why do we need them? We're not good enough. That's a different issue. You can't keep spending money, money after money after money. Got to be so careful. And we don't know what other clubs are going to do. A lot of clubs are playing their youth players at the moment. So we've just got to be careful. We've got to be very careful and not spend silly money.
And just to make one last point on this, with people saying about current squad perhaps not being good enough and we need to look to strengthen, there's been a lot, as you referenced earlier, about social media and Facebook groups and things like that. A lot of talk about Glyn Hodges' position. And as I make the point against you, we've been awful for a number of years now. Essentially, pretty much since we beat Milton Keynes 2-0, that famous game with your favourite ever player / boyfriend / love interest, Lyle Taylor, scoring that great goal.
Yeah.
Ever since then, we've largely been rubbish. And that's because of what we are as a club and our size and our budget and all those sorts of things that go into it. I think we got excited because of what happened in the Great Escape. And we looked at the quality that sort of Wordsworth was producing at the time, Joe Pickett was producing at the time. But in reality, even during that Great Escape, the football was awful. You were to watch those games back, I think people would be surprised at how bad we were to watch. The thing is, we were getting results, mainly because we had Aaron Ramsdale in goal. And we had the massive high of that Luton away game, where we got the late equaliser. But in truth, we were battered that day for large spells. Ramsdale kept us in the game, and the quality has been the quality. At no point have we been an exciting or entertaining team to watch, except for, to be honest with you, the very start of this season.
Yeah, we did start really well, didn't we, this season? Played some nice football. I think, do you know what is interesting? A league table come out. They always do the year table rather than the season by season.
I think
the
calendar year,
yeah, and I think it was in all the leagues are in there. And I think we were like bottom 15 or something, and we'd only won 7 games all season, and that really surprised me. Like, I know the season finished early, so we know the season finished in March, but we didn't win much before March because we had some really tough fixtures, the Ipswich's and the late equaliser up at Rotherham with Mr. Kwesi Apaya, wasn't it? But we've only won 7 games, so a lot of them would come at the start of the season when we were under Swindons, the Fleetwoods, and so forth. Yeah, we're not. I suppose I always say to people when they say about managers, what's their objective? What are the clubs setting them as an objective? Neil Hardy used to always say to finish 4 positions above the financial position. Eric loved his financial stuff.
Neil, you're Eric, yeah.
But what's the objective? Because that's what you've got to measure it against. I don't for 1 minute think we should get rid of Glyn, and I'll be truthful. The reason I don't think massive reason is we can't afford to sack him. We know if you look at the financial figures from last season, we know we had to end up paying off 4 manager and before that another 4 manager. So we know that sacking managers is not cheap. So why would we make a knee-jerk reaction in this? I don't like knee-jerk reactions on managers. Look at Tony Pulis at Sheffield Wednesday. Biggest pile of. If you ever want to look at, I think I said this the other day, Nick, didn't I? If you ever want to look at fan ownership and dodgy owners, have a look at the Sheffield Wednesday owner. Have a look at what he said about Tony Pulis. Unbelievable. Do you know what I mean? Sacked after 75 days.
But we could drop Watford's name in here for their weekly
How many
call
managers
out.
they had now?
804 in the last 10 years. It's ludicrous. But this is the world we live in. I hate it. As I said to you earlier, Stu, I can't remember, at some point over the last few weeks, we're discussing old games, old highlights that crop up on YouTube and Twitter and things like that. A game that we lost, I can't remember the exact game now, but Joe Kinnear would have been in charge. No one was talking about sacking Joe Kinnear. Do you know what I mean? Like, but now a manager loses a game and it's like, well, straight away, the conversation's already being had.
But that's just social media.
Like West Brom. Look at West Brom. Like, why on earth would you? Who in their right mind thinks that West Brom have got a squad that is better than bottom three? Nobody.
Yeah.
So what's the point in sacking your manager? I didn't remember this ever used to be in the case. I remember teams that would get promoted, like Sheffield United's, and in the early days of the Premier League, Swindon came up, never thought about doing it. Leicester came up, never thought about sacking their managers, went back down and came back up. All of the, so many. So why is it suddenly considered the way to go about things? I don't know.
It's social media, because it just flips around on social media, and even though chairman and people shouldn't look at social media, they do. There's two examples. Yeah, you're right. I forgot his name now. The Croatian guy.
Slaven Bilic?
Slaven Bilic. I was getting his name muddled up.
Him from the Wally and Brolly evening at Wembley.
He done well. I thought he'd done well. West Brom was a really calming influence, especially when they went back in after COVID and then had the games. Didn't get the actual additional budget that the other clubs did in terms of leagues that went up. Didn't get the budget. I think he got and I would say he got 20 million quid. That don't buy Van Dijk's toenail at the moment, does it? Let's be fair. So he didn't get the budget that he did to improve the squad. But there's another example which really surprised me. Barrow sacked David Day. He got promoted into the league for the first time in God knows how many centuries, and they let him go already. It's just like, where is that? I hate it, but there should be some sort of loyalty. The manager. Again, I listened to Darren McCann on these podcasts. He said a really interesting thing. He said you can't judge a manager until he's had 3 transfer windows, because he can't get his squad effectively how he needs it until he has 3 windows, which made me think about it, really. And he's heavy on stats, and it made it an interesting point, because we could argue that Glenn Hodges has come in and obviously he was with Waddy Downs, but we don't know the influence he had over the signings. But are we judging these people too early? But if anyone in the Premiership gets 3 transfer windows and they're not doing well, you ain't got a chance, have you?
Sadly not. Brian Low Cicero makes a good point. Watching live on Patreon, says you don't let a manager go if you don't have a solid candidate in mind. If you're smart, you don't at least. What ideal manager is available right now, mid-season, sitting around? And you're right. He says you're right, Stu. We can't afford it either. I mean, it's a great point. Like, it's so easy, like you said this before, it's so easy to say, get rid. Who do you get in? And we were a cat's whisper away from Kevin Nolan.
Exactly. Look at last time, and no disrespect, look at the candidates we had. And wasn't Paul Hurst one of those candidates, potentially?
I think Paul Hurst was potentially one. But who was it? Russell Slade as well?
Yeah. But it's Paul Hurst has gone to Grimsby. He's gone back to Grimsby.
Right.
Which
Ian Holloway's gone.
Yeah, which made me chuckle, because when he left and he went on to better things, didn't he? And they're now claiming the Messiah's come back. No, he's back and he ain't got a job. He failed at Ipswich. Not that he should be judged on Ipswich, because actually that was one error he had. If you look at the previous Shrewsbury, but everyone's now, managers seem to go past their sell-by date very quickly. They seem to forget their history, don't they? And he's had to start. So who is that? Who is out there at the moment? Ian Holloway's out there. I like Ian Holloway. I must admit. But anyway, I'm more than happy with Glenn. I think he's doing well. And let's just get behind him. Yeah,
and LH, who is following along, said, surely we're not talking about Glenn's departure. Surely not. Well, it has been, as we say, we are reacting to what people have commented on social media, in particular the Facebook fan groups. Let's just scroll through these messages, Stu, to make sure we've covered everything. Yeah. Gary Fletcher, who I should have said Happy New Year to, of course, as well. And Happy New Year to all of you listening, whether you're doing it live or you're listening to the audio version. What's the main thing we want this year? To see a full plough lane has to be. Yes, Gary, 100%. That is all I want from football in 2021. All I want to see is plough lane at some stage full with fans.
Yeah,
nothing else. Oh, and Watford to implode.
Well, that'd probably be our first game. It'd be the Football Manager League, Football Manager Cup, wouldn't it?
Oh my God!
If you don't, let me just say this: if you were a sponsor, a very loyal sponsor in Football Manager, surely you'd want to have a bit of a say in that. So the Football Manager Cup, Plough Lane 2021.
What would you like from 2021, Stu?
No, but you know what? It wouldn't surprise me, because we know we've had those Football Manager Cup competitions before in pre-season, haven't we?
Well, the beauty of this is that with new COVID regulations, the whole place will be disinfected anyway. So we don't need to put special arrangements in for after Watford visit and dilute and poison our beautiful stadium. But what else would you
Yeah.
like from 2021?
Do you know what? I just like some sort of like I'd like the vaccine to be um, administered out to everyone that can be, and just get back to some sort of normality. We all miss the normal things. I was actually thinking yesterday, like in terms of what do I want for New Year, and I was thinking, what's it gonna be like when COVID's gone? So the Sun today have done about 12 front page covers that they'd love to have in 2021. And they're all linked around COVID. You know what I mean? Like we've beaten COVID and that sort of thing. I think one said they mocked up that we were European champions. Um, but I think I just want that sort of like I said some normality. And I also wonder what like when there's been like golden jubilees and stuff. I remember the old days. You won't remember them, but street parties and stuff like that. I wonder when COVID is gone, what sort of parties we're gonna have. Would it be lovely to have like a massive party at Plough Lane? Not football, just a party at Plough Lane for COVID and celebrate. Some sort of normality, whatever that is.
Absolutely. Matt Harwood says, "Happy New Year, gents." Thanks, Matt. See what
Oh,
you've done there.
crikey.
New Year's resolutions. What resolutions do you hope that Glyn has made? New Year resolutions, no. For me personally, no. Just losing the will to live. What do you think, Stu, for Glyn? What do you think his New Year's resolution might have done in terms of squad, apart from changing formation?
Joe Cooley signed a new contract.
Yeah. Maybe to find a goalkeeper. But what I mean by that is, as you said earlier, Stu, the thing with the left back situation is they're ours. Paul Osu, Nestor Guinness Walker, there are left backs in which we can get them game time and experience and they can improve to help us out, where Steve said it was somebody else's player. And we go back to this goalkeeper thing. We just keep using other teams' goalkeepers. Maybe it's Nick Zanev. Now we got him. Let's build him up. Let's make him number one. Let's make him our guy.
I agree. If you look at it now, Joe Bursick has got back into Stokes' first team. I think he's got 7 clean sheets. And he's done the rounds in terms of loans. The biggest problem we have is we lose goalkeepers early on, and I think because it's a specialised position. So I think most teams are reluctant to put. I'm trying to think off the top of my head what team around us has put a youngster in. If you look at Rochdale, they put a 15-year-old in at right back. Would they put a 15-year-old in a goal? It's that sort of argument. But we've got Matthew Cox, who's England. He's training with England at the moment. Great goal scorer. I think we can really get him in. He could get into the squad. So should we let him go? But it's a good shout actually. Zanev and Matthew Cox as understudy. We've got to do that. Nothing against the goalkeepers. We've got Rambo, Conor Truman, but
this is nothing against. This is no comment on the quality, of our loanees that we've had. It's just like you say, just why don't we have our own full time? Everyone knows where they stand.
I know what Glyn would like, by the way. Speaking to him, he won't mind me saying, he probably would like to get Joe to install a heated seat in a dugout. So I know he said it was a bit cold.
But Glyn's from an era where he shouldn't be worried about that. Come on.
It can be cold at Plough Lane. The wind wraps around, Well, especially when no one's in there. It does.
Well, there's no one in there, but no, heated seats. Come on. This is what's happened. This is what's wrong with the country. We're all getting too soft. Can't even deal with a little bit of cold. So annoying.
I tell you what, also, by the way, it's very quickly. The leg room in Plough Lane is pretty good. For your tall, like the tall Mark Lewis and stuff like that. There's a lot of room in the rows, so that's good news. And Nick has basically become a scarecrow. I think Nick's literally connection's gone slightly. Are you back with us, Nick? He's looking.
I am. So whatever you said there, I have no idea, but it was probably not worth me listening to anyway.
I was being nice.
I'm sure you were. But hey, it's probably a good time for the internet to start dropping out rubbish as it normally is. Thank you, Virgin Media, because we are going to sort to wrap things up. But there are still stages to get through. We have, yes, I am only 26, LH, thank you very much. I am indeed. And Matt's asking, when does the Alexa Bliss conversation start? Sure, Nick will mention wrestling soon. Gary Fletcher adds, hey, look. In fact, Stu, can I show the listeners what I got for Christmas? Right, I'm gonna turn my camera and my microphone off just for a second, listeners, and I shall come back, and viewers, and Stu, you can entertain whilst I'm gone.
Yes, well, I'll just put your screen in that case, if I can. There we go. You've got me as a mugshot. That's dangerous, isn't it? Where we got? So Gary Fletcher, sure, Nick, we mentioned. Yeah, he already has. Matt, Nick loves Watford and putting the milk in first. Yeah, well, everyone's got enough practice about that. In terms of any New Year's resolutions, I suppose whilst we're waiting for Nick just to get his, well, what he got for Christmas, what New Year resolutions have we got listening online? What have you put as a New Year's resolution apart from being able to get out your house for a little while? Nick, are you back? I think you are, aren't you?
I am. Look, listeners. Sorry, listeners, on the audio-only version. This won't mean anything to you, but for viewers, look, I got my own little, there you go, Alexa Bliss pop vinyl figure.
What are you going to do with that?
Thank you very much.
Don't answer that question.
It's going to sit next to my Bret Hart one. There's a little pop vinyl. You can hear it opening up. You can hear me opening Alexa's box. And then Chris got me that, so thank you, Chris.
Oh, what a surprise. And we should say, get well soon, Chris. He's a bit unwell at the moment, isn't he? So,
Chris is always unwell. He's always got a cold. There's nothing wrong with him. He just needs to get over it. He's an absolute softie.
We haven't taken the mick out of him, but yeah, Chris, get well soon, mate. Rest up, watch loads of, well, I don't know. To be fair, if you watch enough TV, that would be enough to get you feeling better anyway. So yeah, get well soon, mate.
That is pretty much probably it, to be honest with you. What was there were two bits of news I had to say. One I've forgotten completely. The other one that I did want to mention was new Don's Trust Board chairs and vice chair.
Yes.
Joint chairs, Jane Lonsdale and Xavier Wiggins. Joint chairs, Charlie Talbot is the vice chair. So well done to those three, and we look forward to a bit of a not a kickstart, but almost not even really a fresh start, but some new impetus into the Don's Trust Board.
Always needs it.
Well, yeah, and that's the nature of our election cycles. So yeah, good luck to all those three in their new roles. And Stu, the only other thing, what was I going to say? There was something. There was a managerial thing, was there? Oh, I forget. There was something in League One. There was some news. I've completely forgotten what it was, but never mind. Prediction for the game with Lincoln, please.
Oh, yeah. I don't know. I think we do well to get a draw. I really do. I'll take a draw now. I'll take a boring 0-0. Nothing happens draw.
I love a 0-0 draw. Best result you can have. Either that or a 1-0 win. Brian Lo-Cicero agrees. Super excited with the new board. And Gary Fletcher should have got a dole of Alexa Bliss in it. Well, yeah, but that's what I think we might be on a bit of a delay. That might be what that is. And then there was one last thing. LH's resolution is simply to win more games. And we can all agree with that one.
And just very quickly, if you haven't bought the book yet, that We Are Home, the massive, it's a great book to read. Actually, no, I haven't read it, but the pictures are amazing. So if you've got any spare Christmas money or got some vouchers, well, I don't think you can use vouchers with this, but it's a great book if you want to. Yeah, a bit of tear in my eye on some of them, to be fair. Some really interesting pictures.
Hopefully not a tear for your eye. Huh? See what I did there? Tear for. Yeah, okay, moving on. Yeah. Tia, when I hear the word Tia, I always think of Tia as in Tia and Tamira, who were sister. They were the twins that were separated at birth. There was the old Nickelodeon show, and Tia was more attractive than Tamira.
I thought you were talking about the Bananarama thing that we did.
Bananarama? Well, no, that's a conversation for another day.
Did you know that they were on Pointless the other day? They've got a lot
older. Karen Woodward was, yes. Yeah, she doesn't. Her age would not be an issue. Let's just put it that way.
She's got older and you got younger. How's that happened?
Well, just the way it goes for some people. Right, thank you very much for everyone for joining us. We will be back next Friday with regular podcast, and we'll have a new game for the new year then. But otherwise, for those Patreons, thank you very much for subscribing. If you have not yet subscribed, you can join us for extra bonus content on patreon.com/9wireless podcast. But thank you very much for joining us this afternoon.
Yeah.
And Stu, thank you for joining me.
Thank you.
And all that is left to say is Alexa Bliss, bag first, milk last. 2 + 2 = 4. And we shall speak to you again next Friday.